Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Punkabye here for MMOBomb.com, and welcome to our first impressions of Evil Genius Online. Evil Genius Online is a Facebook game that is the successor to the original Evil Genius, which was a single-player game that was developed in 2004 by the now defunct developer named Elixir Studios. Since then, a studio called Rebellion, which is UK-based, they made Sniper Elite 2. You guys are familiar with that game, has taken up the IP. They took it up in 2006 and decided to do absolutely pretty much nothing with it up until the last couple years when they created Evil Genius Online. And now Evil Genius Online is not going to be the only Evil Genius game. There's going to actually be a true sequel to come out soon, but this is supposedly supposed to be a multiplayer version of Evil Genius, which incorporates a lot of what Evil Genius, the original, was about. If it actually did that, that remains to be seen. But during this first look, hopefully I can shed some light on how the game currently plays, as well as whether or not you should stay away from this or check it out if you're into minion management. Alright, so first things first, this is my Lair. If you're not familiar with the original Evil Genius, it is a sort of dungeon keeper style of game where you control minions, in this case your henchmen, within a lair or dungeon, and you have them perform tasks on your behalf. In this case, down here, I have these guys completing a pretty, like, I guess it's like some kind of, here we go, Researchinator. It's a giant brain, and it gives us bonus experience. Those are what those skulls are when it's completed. Now, everything in this game, because this is sort of a Facebook social style game, everything in this game takes time to build or to perform. So everything from building a new addition to your layer to performing a mission will take time. It is a time-based game, which is really unfortunate given the fact that there are some Facebook games that are 3D. And this is a 3D game, I can rotate the camera around, etc. That do not, you know, go back to that whole Farmville style of gameplay where you come back and you just check on it over and over. Unfortunately, this game does, but there are some sort of interesting mechanics which we'll talk about now. So first things first, we have our dungeon, if you will. In order for me to collect anything, any resources that I gain from my machines, I have to do so by clicking on them here, and you notice any idle workers that are currently around will go to perform those jobs. The more workers you have, the more you can theoretically perform. When a job or a worker is performing something, they cannot do anything else, and until they are done, you will have to use a different henchman to complete something. Alright, so we just now completed this Researchinator. I will have to click on it yet again. Once I've clicked on it, I get some experience, and the machine is now done. Now, in the original game, you did have to go ahead and create a bunch of different types of technologies. You'd have to research new technologies, have different henchmen to do different jobs, but a lot of that has been simplified in this game. It's sort of like a straightforward, in order for you to build the next thing, you have to build this or you have to upgrade this to progress to that point. One other thing I'll mention is the fact that your minions here, while they are personalized, on the right hand side you can see some information regarding all of them, the current stats, as well as their current obedience. You can filter by obedience, experience, and assigned, meaning if they're assigned to do something. These minions themselves in the original game would have different branching types. So you could have researchers, scientists, guys more appropriated to defense, those that defend your base against intruding spies or henchmen. In this game, everything's been simplified. You start with one type of unit. They can get upgraded just through performing tasks and doing stuff. Once they've upgraded, they typically gain a little bit more capabilities. They can, you know, do tasks faster, and they are generally better at everything than the minion previous to them. They don't really branch off and become everything else. The Rebellion has said they are going to be adding additional types of minions, or the ability to have different types of minions in the future, but that was back in October, the last I heard of it, and since then we have yet to see any advancement with that. But let's go ahead and continue on with the quest so you can kind of see what style of things that you can do in this game. Alright, so data recycling here. Looks like we're going to have to go ahead and upgrade the money launderer machine to level 2 and upgrade the data stealer to level 2. So this game does have the upgrading mechanics implemented into it, and to do upgrading you simply click on a machine that does not currently have anything for you to collect, and when you click on it you can say upgrade, and that gives you the list of things necessary to upgrade. What I have found is that upgrading doesn't necessarily give you something better all the time. In this case it does. You get 3 of these data per 5 minutes versus 1 of them per 3 minutes. But what I notice, for example, if I go to upgrade the money launderer, you get 100 gold per 30 seconds versus 500 gold per 5 minutes. you actually get more gold by clicking on it as a level 1. You get 200 gold per minute versus the 500 gold per 5 minutes, but that would mean you have to click on it a lot more. You see, I'm already having to click on it again, which means you have to constantly have workers available to pick it up. So ultimately, you're not going to get as much because of the fact that you're probably not going to be always around to click on it. And that just, again, adds some tedium to it. One thing I really wish they did in this game is make it so that your workers, the ones that are idle, automatically go and do things that are quick. They just have to collect resources. They should automatically do that. It would make it a lot more organic, and it would certainly make it a lot more immersive because your workers would just notice what needs to be done. In the original game, let's see here, I got suspicious meat, assign a minion to quick nimble. In the original game, you could actually have sort of like a time clock, and a time clock of sorts would allow you to say, okay, I want a certain amount of minions in this area, and I want them to always be here, or always have a certain amount of minions here available to perform these tasks. In this case, you have to physically assign them to do a task, and then they will do it for as long as it actually takes to do. Alright, so you notice there it actually required me to have a guy eat here at this burger bar, essentially, that I've made in the mess hall. Now, I already have currently a minion working in here. You can see him just in the corner there with his little Santa hat. He's the only guy that's currently upgraded. I assassinated my other upgrade guys out of spite of this game, which we'll talk about assassination in just a minute. But you notice he's only taking up one spot. And there are 2 other spots here, yet I cannot assign another guy here for whatever reason. You'll notice he'll just walk up to it. I can't right click, I can't click on it. Only one of these guys can be here at a time. You know how dumb of an idea that is? You clearly have something showing 3 spots, yet I can only assign 1 worker to it. Now, I don't have to wait for that worker to go, how long is it? Go the extra 2 and 30 seconds left to finish this. I can simply hit complete, which will cost me 1 gem. As you notice there, I have 21. I can choose to purchase that. That gives me some extra boost in morale. You see Bob is now up to 6, and Bob's gone ahead and jumped off and just idled around much further. Now what I can do though is I can say, okay, quick nimble here. I'll go ahead and just do this. I'll say it takes 30 minutes for 1 worker, and he gets +9 as well as 4 experience. If I upgraded this to level 2 and level 3 and level 4, etc., I could get more and more minions to the point where I can have up to 3 minions there at a time. But to start with, hey, you have to have 1 minion there for 30 seconds. And you're like, okay, I can do that, that's not a problem. What about upgrading it? What if I wanted to upgrade it so I can have 2 minions? Well, upgrading costs, in this case, some revival elixirs. Now, every time it actually requests something to be used in an upgrade, so for example in this it requests solder, in this one it requests, well, I have to wait for him to actually pick up the money first, and hey, why don't you just pick up the money next to it while you're at it. This one requests loot bag. Those aren't easily accessible items. Those are things that either you have to have a machine that gives it as a reward, or you have to go and ask it from another player, which is sort of where the social part of this game comes into play. You notice down here there's all these spots for invites. You can click on a person here. In this case, I'm going to go to a different syndicate member here, and you can request certain things from that syndicate member, like additional resources or a particular type of resource, or you can bribe them saying, hey, I'll give you this in exchange for this. This is a real player. I'm inside his, as you can see, his little lair, if you will. Not too much in his either. He's got a couple guys working on some research here, another guy sleeping. These guys have all been upgraded 3 times, which is why they're purple, and they just, again, get upgraded simply by doing tasks. Now, I can come in here and be like, alright, I've got some spies, so I can click on here, I can meddle with some stuff, get some gold, and really, this is the only thing I can do currently in his lair. I really hoped that the original game, ooh, I got some of his data there, nice, nice, nice. Got some spies all working here. I think when this guy comes in, he may spot my spies. We'll see what happens. Are you gonna do anything about my spies? Nope, you're just gonna walk right through. Never mind that my spies are there. In the original game, this was all, of course, single player. It looks like I got some experience, one of those, 600 golds, and a research. More spies at my disposal. Oh, great, 23 hours. I can have more spies. That's awesome. So, in the original game, there wasn't a multiplayer aspect. The more notoriety that you gained, the more fame, essentially, that you gained as an evil person, the more that you'd have spies and other henchmen from other rival areas come in and try to meddle with you, try to destroy your equipment, try to kill your workers. And so you had to have certain henchmen and traps, a lot of traps, devised for these guys so that you could deal with them. Currently, there doesn't seem to be anything like that implemented in this game. It is strictly, essentially, a base building game. You have your minions go around, they do their work, and then once they're done with their work, you have them move on to the next thing. You progress and you keep adding, and you know your base gets larger and larger, etc., etc., etc. Hack a celebrity. All right, so I've got to hack a celebrity now. If I click this machine here in the corner here, I can say hack a celebrity, which will do -3. It'll take 5 minutes, requires 1 workers, but produces 3, or requires 3 data, but produces 500 gold and 5 experience. So there are things that you can use all these different resources for, and that you'll need various, equipment to perform certain types of research or experience gaining techniques. You can basically just look at this all as different ways to gain experience to increase your level of your lair, which in turn allows you to unlock new items to place down in your lair. You may notice sometimes your minions, for example, this one right here, they'll go ahead and they'll look at these little fixtures on the wall. These are sort of cosmetic items that you can actually add. Let's see here if I can do so. You can add these items just random around your base, and they will go and they will admire them. Here's the soda machine. Decorations, alright. They'll admire them, they'll make comments about them perhaps. It just adds to the aesthetics. Let's go ahead and go to the bear rug. Where am I going to add this bear rug? I'll put that bear rug right in the middle of the wall. That's an awesome place for a bear rug. See if we can rotate your camera slightly, and hey, there's going to be a bear rug in this research center tech room. Alright, so you can do things like that, and those are all things that increase the sort of, what's it called, the obedience of your minions, because it creates a better environment, if you will, for them. But all these mechanics are, again, very superficial, not really involving a lot with how they worked in the original game. In the original game, the minions had a lot more stats, they were better at specific things, and you would know by clicking on them and seeing that. And there's just not that depth in this game. There's also the lack of 2 main components, one of which is stated to be coming in the future according to Rebellion. The first thing is the evil genius himself. In the original game, you got to choose between your evil genius, and once you actually chose your evil genius, he would actually be in the base and walk around. He can inspire nearby guys, and it was a nice sort of immersion piece. In this game, there is nothing like that. So you, as the evil genius, you're just sort of above everybody, looking down, and just kind of seeing what things are going around, how things are going, and you make everything from a top-down perspective decision. There's no guy wandering around the corridor, which is sort of, immersion breaking, if you will. Some people don't care about that, other people do. I find that to be a little bit annoying, having played the original. Another thing that's sort of, immersion breaking is the fact that you can assassinate or rename if you choose. So it's sort of like 2 huge chains, like, oh, I like you, I'm going to rename you, or oh, I hate you, I'm going to execute you. You can assassinate other individuals near you. Hygiene issues, you're dirty. And by doing this, it actually gives plus morale to everybody else here, but you do lose that worker. And once you've lost that worker, you'll notice there's a body bag. I can click on this, a nearby worker will collect this. It'll gain extra obedience because, hey, they don't want to get assassinated, and you'll get some rewards as well. Now, why would you want to assassinate one of your workers? Why would you do that? Well, that worker could be really far behind in terms of their obedience, to the point where you don't want to spend the time to get their obedience back up. Or you could just do it as a quick way to boost everybody around you whose obedience is also very low. You can sort of direct them a little bit by clicking on them, but you can't right-click on something and have them do it. You can just sort of group them up in a certain area, and eventually they'll start walking away. In order to gain more of these guys, you have to build barracks, which are sort of like your houses in RTS games. This allows you to recruit more of these workers. It wasn't like that in the original. In the original, you just had this management screen where you could dictate how many of a certain type of minion you wanted, how often you wanted those minions. There were a couple more things in play, but it didn't require a barracks system in order for you to accrue more minions, and it certainly didn't require you to pay and wait a certain amount of time, pay more to get them faster. Those are all things added in this case. Alright, so what we can do? We can do a research here. This will do -4, but we'll do some research, and I forget exactly what we gain out of this, but who cares? We're going to do that. It costs 1 gem, and we got some additional technical things. Alright, so now that we've done that, where are we going to go ahead and end this first look on? Well, I pretty much showed you the main major mechanics. One thing I have to say is this game gives you a ton of gold. So if you're thinking about, oh man, how much things actually cost in this game, you really don't have to worry about that so much. Everything in terms of what you need to progress is accessible through gold and just, you know, completing certain assignments, but they really get you in all the cool stuff. So everything that you would say, hey, that's actually pretty nice, I'd like to use that, is going to cost you gems. And that pretty much goes for every room. You'll notice here, there's always going to be a particular item for every room that's going to cost. Wall-mounted locker is a good example of this. It builds immediately, costs 16 gems, and is the same as a locker, but it actually doesn't take up space. You can just put it against the wall and you'll have free space there as well. There's other items that give you like boost to gold generation or boost to your efficiency that you only can purchase with gems. Not necessarily pay to win, because this is sort of like a single player experience but with a social aspect involved. But certainly not something that is a little annoying, to say the least. Alright, so we've completed that assignment. He's going to finish that. Next hire is going to come in 3 minutes, it seems. Alright, so what to do at this point? Well, I've basically shown you all the major mechanics. Down here in the right hand corner, there's global domination. That is the main sort of mode of the original, whereby you would go through all this hassle of creating all of this, you know, of defending yourself against the enemies, so that you can go out in the world, complete tasks, and overall gain more notoriety and gain more control over the world. You know, dominate it, build a super weapon essentially. And that mode has yet to actually be added. I keep actually going off the screen here. That mode has yet to be added, unfortunately, which means that as it stands right now, you occasionally do this mini game where you go to other people's bases, you talk to other people, you involve them to get the resources you need to finish what you're doing. And that's pretty much it. There's no invasions, there's none of that stuff. Maybe if they add that in the future, that could be something to look forward to, because then it would actually be a lot more of what the original Evil Genius was about. But as it stands now, it's all about a click fest. You click to go here, click to go there, wait 10 minutes, wait 4 hours, wait 24 hours. There's always going to be something for you to do. Let's go ahead and just assign that because it's required. Yes, yes, yes. We'll get a specialist board as a return, which you can put on the wall, which again will make them much happier, because hey, now they can choose what items they're going to eat. So I've unlocked a sleeping chamber as well as a soda machine, and again, as you can see, gold just simply rains from the sky. You're always going to have gold available. It's the gems that everybody wants. The gems are whatever makes everything much easier. Otherwise, like for example, this is our main mission area. This is where you get a bulk of your gold or a bulk of your experience done, and a lot of these are required to actually progress in the game, and you're looking at 4 hours to do City Block. 4 hours to do it, and that is only the 3rd mission. From there it goes anywhere between 8 hours to 36 hours. 36 hours and you gain 17 experience. I mean, that is excessive. So yes, there's quite a lot to do with that. Outside of that though, a couple extra little quick cosmetic features that you can do. You can add sliding glass doors, which you can place just willy-nilly. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this here, put this in the wall. Now sliding glass doors, what they do for you essentially is protect you for incoming, you know, enemies. That's what they did in the original. The enemies would have to go through these doors in order to get into your base. In this game, they again just sort of act as a way of securing your base, quote unquote. Makes your minions, your henchmen, a little bit more happy and more loyal. They feel like they're more secure in here, and it acts mainly right now as just a cosmetic piece that opens and closes as people walk through them. They're nice so that they, you know, they improve the obedience of your workers, but they do not serve the original purpose that they were intended to serve in the original game. It just is really unfortunate that this is the direction they chose to take with this game. I thought adding a social or MMO or some type of, you know, PvP style implementation of this game would have been great. You know, having everybody as different evil geniuses working against each other or maybe with each other. You can kind of see a little bit of the social interaction. If you actually leave the camera and don't move, what will actually happen? Oh, look, a new worker came in. And what will actually happen is the camera will turn to more of a sort of security camera, and it will watch each of the minions individually, watch them walk around, they'll talk to each other. As you can see, that minion was looking at this nice little picture, pink picture on the wall of another evil genius. But in general, you know, it adds a little bit to the immersion, but not too much. But yeah, the PvP, if they actually had done it how I expected them to do it, where it was evil genius, but hey, you could pay a little bit more for cosmetic stuff, you could pay to change the cosmetics of your minions, but then you would go out, and instead of going out and, you know, defending against NPCs, you would defend against the other players. That would be a great decision. That's a good way to do that. Instead, what we get is this, which is unfortunately just something completely different that is largely still single player in the sense of the original, but adds in all the tedium of Farmville and games that just really should not be incorporated into the style of game. I can see how it's very easy to do so. Hey, it's a minion management game just like Farmville where you manage your farm or whatever other game, but there's been some Facebook games that have come out in recent times that have proven Facebook games can be more than this. So overall, I'm quite disappointed in. Alright guys, that is going to go ahead and conclude for now my first look. If you guys want to learn more about the game, you can go ahead and check down below at MMOBomb.com for the full game profile. Here is a NPC version of a Lair. As you can see, there's quite a lot more for you to add here. You know, separate areas to improve. Collect grass trail. Let's see. Oh, don't have any. Can't really interact with anything if you don't have spies, which is unfortunate. I mean, there could have been a lot of stuff they did here. A lot of different stuff. The Rebellion says they're going to add more in the future, including the henchmen, the super henchmen, essentially the agents. Those agents are specialized. They had their own abilities, their own traits in the original. Not really sure how they're going to incorporate them into this Facebook style of game. Hopefully that adds a little bit more of the actual invading other players' bases and stuff like that. But until then, we'll wait and see exactly what happens. There's supposedly going to be a Evil Genius 2. We'll see when that comes out. But until then, guys, like I said, a soda machine, an ideal source of income. So this was going to give us I guess a dollar every time a guy puts in some quarters there. Yeah, that's great. I'm totally going to facilitate my ability to conquer the world through soda change. All right. Like I said, though, it's going to be my first impressions of Evil Genius Online. Not too terribly impressed at all, needless to say. Maybe you guys will enjoy it more than I will. But if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down below. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Spunkify out. Later, guys.